Yeah, I wish.
No.
Wishing for what?
Wow.
And then I had to miss out on you. Wow. And if there's ever a time I would like to see you.
No need to be sarcastic.
Okay.
Freddie, Arne, can we just check on the goalkeeping situation? Ali, Mamardashvili, any chance of either of them being available this weekend, or when are you expecting?
No, Giorgi will definitely not be available for tomorrow and also not for the upcoming weeks. And Ali is close to return of play, so let's see if tomorrow comes too early, yes or no. And that leaves, of course, Freddie Woodman as an option who's definitely fit.
Where are you at as well? I know, appreciate there's still a bit of a way to go in this season, but where are you at in terms of planning for next season?
We're, as I said so many times, I'm mainly here for the short and mid to long term, and but mainly my time is spent for the short term, and that means Crystal Palace tomorrow. And of course, there are conversations going on about next season, but my complete focus is, and still should be, on this season, because margins are small. One or two results can make a big difference, as we saw, because I think 2 weeks ago we weren't 5 points clear of the number 6, and 2 results later we are. So it can also go both ways. So my full focus is on Palace, which is needed because, as you know, we've played them 3 times already this season and we're unable to beat them once.
At the same time, you've given yourself that breathing space in terms of qualifying for next season's Champions League at the moment.
Yeah, that is what the results recently have done to us. I think the last 8 games we picked up 16 points. And it doesn't always feel like that because in between we had to play Paris Saint-Germain and Man City. But our recent league form is acceptable.
We are expecting further protests from the fans though regarding the rise in ticket prices this weekend, and a yellow card protest where fans will lift yellow cards up in the 13th minute. How do you feel about that? How does it impact you guys, particularly given the importance again of maintaining the run that you're on at the moment?
Yeah, I think as long as I'm in football there are disagreements, and almost all the time these disagreements are between people that have the best interest in the club. So could be me with a player, could be someone else, but we always have the best interest for the club. So the only thing I can say about that is that I think 2 weeks ago against Fulham there was also a protest, but we felt the complete support throughout the whole game of our fans, and that's what I mean with having the best interest in the club. When they have a protest like this, they are still there to support the team, and that's also what's needed tomorrow. Especially the first one I'm thinking about is Freddie Woodman. If he has to start, if Ali is not ready to start, then I think a player like him, but all of them definitely need a lot of support from our fans tomorrow.
Arne, you mentioned Freddie Woodman. Obviously, he came on in the derby and settled into the game. If you do have to go with him, if Alisson isn't available, how much faith have you got in his abilities, and what do you see as his best qualities?
No, I think for a reason we've signed an experienced third goalkeeper. Usually you don't need him that much, but there could be situations if one is injured and the other one gets a suspension. That's makes usually more sense than expecting 2 goalkeepers to be injured. Then it's needed to have a third goalkeeper with experience, and that's why we were happy that we could pick him up on a free transfer this summer. Apart from him being a good goalkeeper, which he's shown, I think when he was young he won the Euros with the under-17s, and I think with the under-20s he won the World Cup. And then he made himself a career at Newcastle, at Preston North End, and has the experience to play even at Premier League, but definitely at Championship level. And apart from that, he's a very good man, and he's very liked in the dressing room. And I think that's also a role that's important for the third goalkeeper. If he's not playing, if he's playing, is more important that he has a good performance than that his teammates like him. And that's why I think he's ready for it, but it would always be helpful if the fans are there to support him tomorrow.
You mentioned the record against Palace before. No wins against them this season. It's only 1 in 6, I think, overall. for Liverpool. Why do you think it's been so difficult, this matchup for you?
No, as always, what makes it difficult are the players you face. I think they have a good team. They've already had a good team 2 or 3 years ago when from that team Gueye, who's now at City, Olise, if I pronounce that right, was at Bayern Munich, making a great career for himself now. And of course, they have a very good manager who's able to bring a lot of discipline in that team, and it's really, really, really hard to create chances against them. I've watched with my staff quite a lot of games, as we always do, of these teams, but probably now a bit more to find ways of creating chances against them, because you're watching. Doesn't matter which game. I'm not going to come up with the games I watched, but you're watching 60 minutes of football and you haven't seen the other team creating a chance yet against them. And then on the other hand, they are very direct in their playing style with good attackers going quite fast in behind your last line. So I think they have conceded, after Arsenal, the least goals. So that tells you a lot, and there's a reason for that, because they hardly concede a chance.
Thank you.
Hi, Arne. Mo Salah starting to hit scoring form again, 3 goals in his last 3 Premier League starts. What is it down to him getting back on the goals again?
I think first of all it's really important for us that we have attackers that score goals, because if you look at the success of last season, we had multiple attackers that scored a lot of goals. And this season, now you can just look at the numbers, and we are not scoring as many as we did last season. I think there's a little drop off maybe also in chance creation, not as much as the goal scoring would you would expect. Do you understand what I mean? So there's a little drop off in chance creation, but not as much that we don't score so many goals anymore. With Mo, I've said it many times, but that probably also goes for the other ones. There's always parts in the season where the ball just falls to you, and you don't have to do anything difficult and score. And in other moments, you do so much yourself to try to create a chance, and it's just actually never working, or the goalkeeper makes incredible saves. But normally, and that happens now with Mo, things go back to normal. And normal for Mo is in his Liverpool career is that he's scoring goals.
Just one with regards to Alexander Isak. I just wonder, how long do you think it'll be until he gets towards his sort of peak physical fitness? And do you think having a sort of World Cup to play in at the end of the season will help or hinder him get to that sort of level of fitness?
It won't hinder him. What would be the best scenario for him is not 100% left or right, so I cannot say this would have been better than that one. But a very good pre-season with us, 6 or 7 weeks, would have been a very good lead up to a season as well. But if he has a good World Cup where he plays a lot of games, that would be helpful. The temperature is probably quite high in America, so I don't know what the tempo of the games is. Usually the tempo of games when they play for their countries is lower than Premier League or Champions League standards. But I'm happy that he's back. What is realistic where he is now? Yeah, you tell me. I think we can all understand that if a player missed out 4 months or 5 months of training before he came to us, then we build him up, and the moment that he was ready, he got injured again, missing out 4 months again, and now he's 2 weeks with us maybe. Yeah, that's a lot of months without training time with the team. In the middle of a season where everyone is top fit, that's not the easiest part to come back. But I think we are seeing progress in the games he's played. Paris Saint-Germain, now this one, and we're hoping that progress can continue. And how fast he's then at his best level, I don't know that. I cannot look at the future, but I'm hoping for us and for himself very soon.
Oh.
There's been a lot of talk about goalkeepers already, but can I ask you about Alisson? The club took the option to extend his deal this season, and then last he's had a few issues with injuries, and this week we've seen him being linked with other clubs. I'm just wondering how you see his short to medium term future.
No, I'm only focused on his short-term future, and that's getting him back into goal as soon as possible. But that's not what you're asking. Would he be the most stubborn one in this room, you think? Or would he be the most stubborn one in this room? No? Oh, okay. Because I think you know what my answer is going to be. So you're not even trying it anymore. But the answer is going to be that, of course, all these rumors that are out there are there about him and probably about me and about others. We don't react to rumors in this room. By the way, also not in my conversations with Richard. We only react when facts needs to be told, and that's not the situation at the moment. But the main focus for Ali is, I think, very clear. That's getting back into goal as soon as possible for the club he loves to play for, and then he wants to be in goal for the country he loves to play for, and that's Brazil. And I think that's already short and mid-term future. That's not the answer you wanted, was it?
He's obviously had his fitness issues, which he probably didn't have earlier in his Liverpool career. I know that sometimes comes with age or whatever, but I'm just wondering whether you sort of maybe looked into those injuries and then how it may affect him sort of, going forward.
Yeah, of course, we're looking at these kind of injuries he's having, because it doesn't make too much sense to look into the injury of Giovanni Leone or Conor Bradley, because that's pure bad luck. A muscle injury, you always try to prevent that with your training program and your schedule and what you can do about it. But he's not the only one. I think you said earlier in his career here, that's completely true, but football has changed so much. Everywhere you see muscle injuries, more and more and more and more, and we all know why. Because of this crazy schedule we have to play, which to a certain extent I like, because every night I'm at home, I'm looking at my television, I'm like, oh, there's a game of football, that's nice. So for a football fan, it's really nice. Of course, for the health of the players, it's getting more and more and more, and maybe age plays a part, but this week we saw one of the youngest players playing at an incredibly high level, Lamine Yamal, getting injured with a muscle injury as well. So I would not put that down to age, I would put that down more to the schedule that we are facing.
Hi, Arne. I want to talk about another young player, Rio Ngumoha. He's made great strides this season, but he's still waiting for his first senior assist. And I noticed that a lot of his minutes don't seem to be with the elite strikers, more the backup strikers. People maybe don't have quite the same striking instincts. I think he's only played 31% of his minutes with either Isak or Ekitike so far this season. And thinking before what you were saying about getting Alex up to speed a little bit, is there some kind of idea about maybe looking at the combinations of players, as Rio feels like he's got the profile of some of the players who helped Isak when he was at Newcastle? Are those kind of considerations, maybe the combinations, the chemistries coming into your mind when you look at selection?
Now, in your long question, there are a lot of good things you say, and I can also relate to that question in the sense that where our problems have been this season. So Rio Ngumoha is at his age. There's only one player in the top 5 competition that made more minutes than him at top level, Champions League, Premier League, or Serie A, or Bundesliga, or whatever. So that tells you he's made a lot of minutes, which I said he would do, because he's getting better and better and better. But since he made so many minutes, and he only made how many minutes?
220 with either Isak or Ekitike.
No. That tells you also one of the reasons why we maybe struggle to score, that we're not having our number 9s as much available as we want to. Of course, it helps for every player that we have all of our best players available. So the more he or anyone else could play with Alexander Isak or with Hugo Ekitike, the better it is, yeah. But although I saw one of his Instagram posts of Hugo where he from crutches started to run, but unfortunately I don't think that's realistic. So we have to miss him, unfortunately, for a long time. And Alex is getting closer and closer to making 90 minutes, so that's helpful. But it's the reality of this season that we missed goal scorers for large parts of the season.
Hi Arne, today is about
We don't have an Hungarian one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I was like, huh, what is he talking? Yeah, we do. Yeah. I thought about these three, but the fourth one is Hungarian. Yeah.
Will you include Pecsi in the squad for tomorrow's game? And I know he likely won't play, but how do you see his progress since he arrived to the club? And he had the level to play a Premier League game?
He was already on the bench last week. I don't know if you noticed that, but because we were short on players, we added Armin to the bench as well because he's also doing the warm-up. So there was a spot available, so he could be the man. Of course, he's on the bench tomorrow. We think we signed a very talented goalkeeper in him. He already played minutes at the highest level. I think in Hungary, wasn't it? Yeah. So now he's played multiple games with the under-21s, and he gets better and better because if you are every day on the pitch doing finishing drills with the attackers we are having, you are becoming a better goalkeeper. Still very young, still of course progress to be made, but that's completely normal. But we think we've signed a very talented and good goalkeeper that eventually could definitely play for us.
Yeah, and do you see him at the level if the situation is to play?
If you ask me, do I see him at the level of Alisson? My answer is no, but that's not criticism at all. If you ask me let's touch wood, but it would fit this season completely. If something would happen with Freddie tomorrow, then if Armin then comes in, I'm completely comfortable. Because he's very comfortable on the ball, has a very good instinct, and he reads the game really well. So he knows where the shot would go to, and that I like a lot. So yeah, if he needs to come on, if Alisson is not ready to play tomorrow and Freddie needs to start and something might happen, I'm completely comfortable by bringing him in.
Check on Joe Gomez. Arne, is he going to be back on the squad? And where's Wataru Endo in terms of his recovery?
Joe, was that he's back in the squad, so that's really positive because last week I only had two centre backs that were playing and no one on the bench, so it's really helpful that Joe is back. And Wata is starting to go out, not with the team yet, but starting to do exercises outside the pitch with the rehab team. So he's making steps, but that he will not be available next week for United or the week after. But we are hoping and expecting him to be back in the end of the season.
Jane, last one.
Just on Cuban, what's the feedback been like on how the surgery went? And are you any clearer yet in terms of the time scale he's looking at?
No, the surgery went well, so that's the first and important step that he had to make. But I think in such a long rehab process, there are so many crucial steps to be made before you can actually say it's going to take that amount of months or that amount of months. But it's going to take a long time. Everybody can know that if you call the first surgeon and ask him how long is this injury going to take, they will tell you multiple months. And then it all depends on how rehab goes. He's a very explosive player, so usually that's not helpful if you have this injury. But maybe he's the exception to that. We don't know yet, but the first and most important step is that the surgery went well, and he can from now on work on his recovery, which is going to take a long time. But he will, as I said, will be back stronger as all the others that have been injured for such a long time. If you look at Giovanni Leone, I don't know if you once in a while see some Instagram post of the club, but this guy becomes a beast. Yeah. You're welcome.